We're in Tabiona, Utah, Skyrada Ranch, one of the most beautiful places, and it's fitting for one of the most beautiful Land Cruisers ever made. I think, at least for the US market, it's the best Land Cruiser ever made. It's the LC100. Mine specifically is a 2006, and it speaks to me because it's the type of vehicle that you could jump in, go overlanding across the country with the fam, go off-roading in Moab with a buddy, and is the ultimate daily driver because it's comfortable, it's got the appropriate amount of power with the V8, and honestly, it just looks cool. So what I want to do is go front to back on this vehicle, talk about the pros, but also identify some of the cons that I've experienced over the last few years of ownership. So let's get into it. Oh, that classic 4.7. At least it has a V8. Now, the Land Cruiser has been around for, that's one of my favorite parts. That's one of my cons out the gate. But I wanted to do a little bit about the driving experience of one of these machines. Unfortunately, it's like driving a Sega Genesis, and it's very Genesis because it's old, and I expect certain things to be, like in the back, rattly. Oh, let me grab that real quick. It literally is gonna rattle so much. It will still rattle, just in a different way. The advantage that the LC100 has, I think, over most off-road capable overlanding SUVs is its ability to be everything you need, like a dual-purpose multi-tool, but it also is just a little rough on the edges, which I don't know what it is, but the older I get, the more I want to get back to that. I just think I want a vehicle that's just a little bit still grounded in that old school feel without being a Toyota Hilux. The first thing you notice about this Land Cruiser is that it feels good. Like everything inside of it feels where it should be. Now, I've modified this a little bit, as you probably should, with Shillman seats. And the riding position changes everything for me, and it's like a mattress. I'm going to invest in the thing I sleep on because I spend a lot of time there. I spend a lot of time in this vehicle, so I want the most comfortable seat possible. Shillman accomplishes that in the riding position. But you sit real upright, and there's no sparing room in this area. There's no room for you to kind of get lost in it. It just feels comfortable and right. At 6'1", 230 pounds on a light day, I feel comfortable in this vehicle. Now, it doesn't feel like my Ford F-350 or a Sequoia. It feels compact. It feels like my 2016 4Runner. Now, when I look out the window, I have a view, but it's upright. I can see over my hood and nearly see the headlights on this vehicle, but I like that, especially when trying to avoid obstacles day and night. I also like that upright feel, almost similar to a Discovery Land Rover, except it's not a Land Rover. You're not broken down on the side of the road. You're actually driving. You're actually experiencing what this is all about. And so I appreciate that upright perspective. Now, if you have a family like me of 5, it's not the biggest vehicle. These came with third row seats, but let's be honest, you're not going to use the third row seat unless you want to feel like you're neglecting your child in the trunk. I like this as it sits, and it's perfect for me for a family of 5. Being 3 of that family of 5 are small children. If you have a lot of adults or you're in the hinterlands of Utah, wink, wink, then you're probably not gonna like it. You're gonna like those, what are those vans they always drive around? Like there's vans all through Utah with families of 20. That are four-wheel drive, that you could do a four-wheel drive conversion, that thing. I appreciate everything about the driving experience ergonomically. Now, a little bit about the way it feels. The steering is tight, and there's some acceleration there. Now, I live at 5,000 feet minimum in elevation, depending on where I'm at in Utah, and typically it's all the way up to 10,000 feet. When you look down at the gear shifter, there is a power mode, that allows you to get just a little bit more RPM and power changing the gear ratio, but it's not great. But let's imagine you're in a 2016, like my old 4Runner, with a V6 with the same amount of weight and all the things you're carrying. This at least has a very good engine, but it's also the engine that you could find in the LC100, the Tundras, the GX 470s and LX 470s, which is the appropriate amount of power, especially when you're loading it down with all the things. Now, what I like about the vehicle is it drives like a tight SUV, not like a car, not like a sports car, but has the potential. Because remember, this has independent front suspension on it. Now I'm doing some windy roads back here in the country near Tabiona, Utah, and despite me being in an off-road, very off-road capable vehicle, I'm able to take this at 40 plus miles an hour and feel comfortable in it. There are some major issues with the interface for this vehicle. A word of caution, this is not going to be the Apple CarPlay integrated system like driving an iPad that you're used to. Even in my new 392 Rubicon, I became spoiled at that interface, and going back to this, I had to sell it because of, but getting back into this as my daily driver, you're going to go from immersed technology and integration at the touch of your fingertips to the Commodore 2000. Because the problem with this interface is there's no updates in this firmware. I agree, because you have to do that every single time, which is super annoying. And this is the GPS system on it. This is the mapping software they still have. And this, I don't even remember it being this crappy in 2006. Like, I feel like this is like backdated, like maybe we're in a sim or something. So this cannot be changed out. Now, there are what they call Tesla or Android-based systems that you can get on eBay that supposedly are plug and play. I'll tell you, because I've tried 3 of them, they don't work. They don't work, at least on this model LC100 in 2006 with the US OEM spec. It does not work. I've tried it. So what's the solution? Well, my solution is here. I have my cell phone tethered to a quad lock. I could tie that in real conveniently, so it's at the touch of my fingertips. And I have my phone plugged in right here. It's going to be plugged in, so it's not hard plugged. It's just plugged into a cigarette lighter adapter. And I tried to use the old adapter that uses FM stations to integrate into it, and that sucks really bad. I mean, it's just horrible. So what I did do is I got a Bluetooth system integrated into it to where when I hit disc, I could play whatever I want that's based off of my phone. So right now, if I want to go to the Joe Rogan podcast with Chris Harris, I just hit disc and then I hit play, and then it doesn't work. It's like it doesn't work half the time. So let me just I'll hit pause again, I'll hit play, and sometimes you just gotta turn it off and turn it on. Blowing out the dust in the Nintendo cartridge, that doesn't work either. Let me hit disc again.
The sapphire
there it is.
Magnificent. It's extraordinary. You can't, you're gonna get like half the price.
Perfect.
Of that thing.
It's perfect. It's acceptable for me because, one, I'm old and I don't like a booming system. I don't want that. The vehicles I do have that have upgraded audio, it's because my kids love that. I even have an integrated DVD player that's playing straight up DVDs. Like, it's got the Goonies in there right now because I'm using 80s propaganda to brainwash my children. But that's even tethered to this, and all I have to do is hit the FM station to listen to that. All these little quirks are something you're gonna have to deal with. And I'm actually interested to hear if there's any solutions to this, because as years go by, I pray and hope for some solution to this technological debacle. If I had to change anything in this vehicle, it would be to rip this entire electronic system out and just run something else completely. I would pay for that, but so far I haven't found anybody who knows how to replace all of that. Lastly, I have integrated lights that I have access to on a panel that I'm running through a Switch Pro setup, as well as an ARB dual air compressor at the flip of a switch, and my fog lights. And that's basically it. You should also know that the LC100 is a full-time 4-wheel drive system. And it also comes with a center differential lock. Most of them, I haven't seen any that don't. So if you got to get lockers in the rear, you likely are going to have to do that modification on your own or get the factory option, which I think it was a factory option. It does have access to put it into low gear, and then I have the ability to shift it down manually via this gear shifter into 4D, 3, second, and then low gear. Yeah, and I think that's it. Look, super comfortable ride. I like running really dark window tint because you do have a lot of light coming into this vehicle. It's a lot of windshield. There's a lot of perspective here, and I want to be covered, and I want my kids not to get skin cancer on their left or right arm, depending on what side they're sitting on. So I have tinted the windows dark, which keeps the temperature down in this vehicle. And yeah, that's an overview of the overall experience. All right, guys, what better way to feature the LC100 and do a walkthrough from front to rear than being off the side of the road in beautiful Utah? So I'm gonna walk you through some of the things that I chose to do to this rig and what I've learned over time. There's a lot of debate over like overlanding versus off-roading versus all this stuff. It's like whatever you're into. Build a vehicle that you're gonna be happy with and that suits your lifestyle. And this is the rig that suits my lifestyle best. So let's get into it. Let's get into the front of this vehicle. This is an ARB front bumper. Look, opt in for a steel bumper with a loop. If you're gonna compromise your vehicle's integrity, the suspension, the brakes, the powertrain, because of weight, do so smartly. And I recommend at least getting a steel bumper. If you're exploring the West like I am, you're going to run into situations literally that are going to require a steel bumper. I have 2 deer on this bumper, and the only thing I did was lost an ARB fog light, but the overall vehicle was saved, and that was like at midnight on a back road here in rural Utah. So Warren winch, this is a 10,000 pound capable winch. This is the VR Evo. This is a synthetic line winch tied into factor 55, which is about standard, just to have the ability to mostly bail out my friends. I mean, that's honestly, I've used this more to bail out friends because I'm picking the right line and I'm not doing anything too extreme with a vehicle that's lower to the ground, not the biggest tires, and also an independent front suspension vehicle. So I'm taking the semi-bad, the comfortability of having IFS, but also I'm sacrificing off-road capability, and maybe, just maybe, you have this just to bail you out just in case. Don't skip out on lighting either. I'm running KC highlights on the front bumper, the ditch lights, and the rear. If you're anywhere, especially around here where, 10 feet behind the cameraman is a drop off of about 100 feet, you're gonna run into situations like that and you need the appropriate lighting for the situation. Let's go ahead and look at the front of the vehicle. I have stock lights. I've rattle canned this front grille because the chrome grille on it is horrendous. And let's get into what's under the hood. All right, nothing crazy underneath the hood, but it is clean and it is tidy. Now, the guys at Cruiser Outfitters, Kurt Williams, all the mechanics there helped me out because they took a rat's nest of an install and cleaned it up. Like this bank, which is the Switch Pros, had all the wiring that was in a nest and there was a mouse living in it. He had a retirement home here sitting on top of this box. You want to do a lot of your mounting on the sidewall of this vehicle because there's plenty of space, which is crazy because there's a big V8, 4.7 in this vehicle. All right, so on the battery, I'm running a SLE setup on an X2 Power dual purpose deep cycle battery, and it has all the neat and tidy wiring that you would want to make sure you're not having failures. This vehicle used to turn its lights on by itself at like 3 in the morning and scare the crap out of me at my house. When you come across this side, it's a stock V8 4.7 liter engine. And here's what I'll tell you about this engine. The 2UZ FE is a pretty well-known, reliable engine. Miraculously, and I think it has to do with elevation, my engine blew a head gasket at 185,000 miles. Now, I had both heads redone, and that cost me about $9,000. And somebody would say, why would you ever pay $9,000 for new heads? Because I wanted it to be built right. And as I built it right, I also invested in the vehicle that I decided I was never going to get rid of, because I look at that as an investment and going, man, I could buy a truck for that much, but I also have invested a lot of time, energy, and love into this rig and made a lot of memories with my family. So I'm not getting rid of it. I replaced the heads. It took a long time to get that done, but it runs like it's brand new. In fact, I'm calling it brand new. It's like running at 0 right now, and it's running healthy and strong, the strongest it's ever been since I've owned the vehicle. Coming across here, I just run a K&N air filter in this true adapted snorkel. Now, a lot of people are like, why would you run a snorkel? You're not really doing a lot of river crossings. We're running snorkels here in the US, here in the West, because of the dust. We're trying to keep that air intake as high as possible to avoid all the dust that we're kicking up, especially if you're running in convoys with your mates. This thing, third vehicle in a convoy coming from Moab, is full of moon dust, and I have to have the air snorkel to keep it clean. So lastly, I'm running an ARB dual air compressor underneath the hood, which allows you to tie in your lines, inflate your tires after you've deflated them on the trail, and also to clean up the vehicle after a long day on the trail. All right, let's talk about some things as we walk back. I'm running Method wheels, and I'm also running Big O AT2 tires. So I'm slightly offended by these tires because I went to Big O tires, which I really like those guys, and I went to get KO2s installed on the rig. And when I got there, they had Big O AT2 tires made by Bigfoot. And I was like, are you guys making your own tires? Like, are you guys playing a trick on me? Like, are you trying to get like a branding deal? Like, what's going on here? Like, why are these tires on my vehicle? And they said, oh, that's what you wanted. And I was like, no, that's not what I wanted. Well, after a slight discount and some convincing, I said, you know what? I'll give these wheels a shot. And here's what I'll tell you, like, these tires are made by Bigfoot, which I don't even know who makes them, but it's going to be the top like 2 or 3 manufacturers. But they're 275/70 18s. And I'll tell you right now, on the road and off-road so far, they're performing very well. And you get all the benefits of all the service and warranty stuff that comes with Big O tires. And I like that convenience. So I'm running this right now, and it's tucked up in there with some methods. I do have some modifications to tell you about, because this is the modifications that I've changed recently because of the suspension that just basically disintegrated on me. I had an Old Man Emu kit on this rig. Now, of course, you guys know Old Man Emu. It's no shock that it's a budget kit and not very expensive, and you get what you pay for. So after a few years of running that, it's completely fallen apart. I mean, just completely fallen apart. So I asked the experts, hey, what are the options here? What would you recommend? And I landed on Dobinson IMS suspension. Now, you only get a couple inches out of Dobinson. That's what she said. When you look at Dobinson's quality, the cool thing about the quality of Dobinson, it's made for overlanding and the outback. And obviously, Australians are just built different, and these dudes are doing it for real. So I'm buying into the idea that this Dobinson equipment is going to be bulletproof. It's going to work. And so far, so good. I'm running the Dobinson 2-inch, I believe, lift with the IMS shocks. I'm also running a new upper control arm made by SPC, which was recommended to me by Kurt Williams from Cruiser Outfitters. And I replaced the lower control arms on this vehicle because they were completely just devastated. If you have an old LC100 or 470, you might want to look at the stock components. The OEM components, the JDM components of this vehicle are going to be really good at longevity and reliability, but they might need a cycle replacement after 18 plus years. So ARB in the rear as well, and I'm running the dual swing out on this, which is a lifesaver because I've ran a lot of American companies stuff that aren't integrating the shocks built into it, and you wind up clubbing yourself nearly to death with these swing arms on off-camber terrain. As I get into this, I'm running Goose Gear's full kitchen setup, but it's not complete. Now, what I wanted to do when I set this up is I wanted to have the ability to cook off of it, have the fridge, and also have a dual battery so I wasn't sucking the juice underneath the hood and compromising potentially my ability to get out of the backcountry. So I went with a National Luna setup up top. And now this is pretty dated. I think I bought this 6 years ago. So you notice that there's not a fridge back here either. Now the reason I didn't put a fridge is I haven't really landed on a fridge I like. If you have a recommendation for a fridge, go ahead and put it into the comments. But what I also like about this potential setup, depending on how you set it up yourself, is this is going to extend And this is typically gonna hold my like $20 Coleman stove. I know there's fancy stoves and there's amazing setups, but I like these because they're easy, they're cheap, and I have tons of those gas containers all over the place. I also like that, you know, I'm running this like Yeti portable cooler. I could use this for more storage. With 3 kids in the back, I don't have a lot of room for a lot of crap. I mean, most of it is their crap, but I need to make room and I need to be very tactful with what I carry in here. So if it's just us and we're going out camping, let's say we're just going out for a day trip, I'm gonna pack enough in here to sustain us for that trip. Anything more extended and I have to use a larger setup, but I could plan for that. If I commit to a fridge that's locked into the position, then I don't have any room to kind of adapt other things, like my portable toilet or my paper towels or my like whatever you're into. I don't even know if we use the word . Rolling back here, I won't go into details. I'll do some bonus footage for my Patreon on some of the things that I pack out here and why. But I love this setup because these are the things inside this rig that stay in the rig. Like all the things up top in the soft bags, I'm pulling that stuff out, I'm transferring it to another vehicle. But here, the ability to make fire, my coffee set, my water, some of my first aid equipment, my propane canisters, some food, an axe, these awesome Grail bottles that filtrate and sanitize water. This is all going to be the same, and I take it and I just lock it down. I am gonna adapt things like, depending on the road trip, like I'm training this weekend at the Skyraider Ranch, so I'm gonna have some of my personal kit. This is a Fieldcraft Survival Roam kit. It's got our pouches in it, and it's got all the stuff that I need to teach out of. I also carry a 40 liter in every single rig that has my maintenance and recovery equipment that I need, including gloves. I got my air hoses for the dual air compressor. I have an ARB tire repair kit. I have a first aid kit. All the things that I need that are for this vehicle are in here. So this is going to be my SOP in running this. Last but not least, for the rear, I'm gonna have all the stuff that I need for conveniences, baby wipes, paper towels, again, the portable toilet. This thing is like the heat. The person who invented this should get like a Grammy or something. Is that what they award people who make awesome stuff like portable crappers? This is like a must-have if you have kids. This is one of the best, we should put Fieldcraft on that. This is one of the best pieces of equipment, especially off the back of this. This is not like the convenience of my F350 where you could basically put a toilet in the back, a portable toilet in the back, and the kids could use it on the go. There's not a lot of room in here. You're gonna need something like this. I also keep all my sleep stuff back here. I have a trash bag, that's how I carry it. I have a trash bag with a pillow, with a blanket, and then I can just throw it up in my tent when it gets dark. But I also always go everywhere with this high-speed piece of equipment, which I think is essential. If you're like me, who has to get surgery on Tuesday, back surgery on Tuesday, by the time you see this video, I already have it, and I'll either be paralyzed or I'll be okay. You need something like this to create your comforts of life. And you can notice in this LC100, I still have plenty of room for a whole bunch of crap. I mean, this is really just me. If I had my kids, my spouse, I could throw a lot more stuff in here, which is plenty of room. Again, this was built for that third row, which you're not really going to use. I mean, it's almost impossible to get the kids into the third row. An adult, completely impossible. But I opt to use this particular setup from Goose Gear. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed that video. It's a little bit longer than we typically do when talking about vehicles, because there's a lot of interest in Land Cruisers and this idea of overlanding, and obviously the preparation that goes behind it. Also, selfishly, I want to inspire you to kind of get off your butt and like go build a rig. You know, I'm building a budget first gen 4Runner, a 1986 4Runner that has IFS. I hope to do like an 85 swap on it, but it doesn't cost a lot of money to get into this. As long as you're taking your vehicle, you're getting outdoors and you're getting experiences with your family, I think that's what really matters. This vehicle, when I bought it from a guy in Phoenix, Arizona for 20 grand. For me at the time, that was right on par for my budget. And they're still available and they're still out there. A lot of people see these things on Facebook Marketplace and they have 300,000 miles. They're still solid platforms. They range anywhere from 5 to 10 grand. And people are like, oh, I know you're just driving up the market of Land Cruisers. Believe me, there are thousands of these things available. And I just encourage you to get one, build it the way that you want to build it, and get outdoors and enjoy the ride. Make sure you check out the application. That's the Fieldcraft Survival App. Also, come and train with us at Fieldcraft Survival preparedness.com. Till next time, peace out, guys. Oh, it's so funny. What's really funny is we've gotten a FZJ 80 stuck there before, and that 80 series got buried, and this thing just made it. I mean, there was a little bit more traction because there was a lot of wet and rain. I'm super impressed with the suspension so far. I'm not aired down. And me and Yoshi were talking about the vehicle. It feels like we're aired down, and I'm running full air pressure, just like I came out of the parking lot of Walmart, and I'm here off-roading and really capable. Wow, pretty impressed.